Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to this week's edition of SecondsOut Flexpectations, a weekly look ahead at the boxing action to come. And obviously with the current pandemic and lockdown enforced in the UK, we're looking far ahead rather than just the weekend in the next couple of days. One thing that I wanted to talk about certainly this week is the potential bottleneck of shows that are going to come once the lockdown's finished. And it seems churlish to complain about something like that, considering we're going to be starved of boxing action for months and people are going to be desperate to watch any live events they can. But something that needs to be addressed, and I spoke to Sky boss Adam Smith about this yesterday, like the name drop there, is the potential jamming of several pay-per-view shows in a really short space of time. So before the lockdown was enforced, we were looking at, I think it was 3 Sky Sports box office shows within 7 weeks. And then if you add in BT Sports box office, Daniel Dubois against Joyce show, I think that was 3 weeks before that Sky run started. So that's 10 weeks, 4 pay-per-view shows in 10 weeks, which is pretty tough as it is. But then projecting forwards when everything gets rearranged, it could be even worse. So at the moment, we're looking at Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin, which was scheduled for May, is now going to take place at the beginning of July. A week later, clashing with a normal Sky Sports show from Wales, is Dubois Joyce, rescheduled date July the 11th. So that's already 2 on consecutive weeks. And then we've got Anthony Joshua at the moment still scheduled for June the 20th, but there's every chance that's going to get moved back as well. But if it stays in place, then we're looking at 3 pay-per-view shows in 4 weeks, which just sounds ridiculous. And then we're still waiting for Alexander Usyk against Derek Chisora to be rescheduled, which, if that takes place in July, we could be looking at all 4 within a span of, say, 8 weeks rather than the initial 10 that we were looking at before. It's just crazy, and although we're desperate for boxing action, I'm a fan as much as I am a journalist, it does present a bit of a problem, especially with people's finances compromised after either not having worked for a certain amount of time or only receiving 80% of their wages, depending on your situation. It's going to be difficult for people, these pay-per-views, unless these guys have the people in charge have a change of heart and decide that with people's wallets in danger at the moment, danger of being empty at least, that they'll cut prices on these pay-per-views or even move some of them to regular subscription TV. I mean, one can dream, right? Then we're looking at 20, 25 quid a pop, depending on which fight. One saving grace, of course, is that the third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder has been moved back to at least October. So we won't have to worry about that until then. But June/July could be a real pain for the dedicated boxing fan. And it causes us to make some real choices. A lot of people I've spoken to recently, looking on the positive side of the lockdown or shutdown of boxing as well, have said, look, it's not great, but because there will be fewer shows and they'll all have to be crammed in, there'll be a lot more competition. Every show is going to have to be really amazing and chock full of 50-50 fights. I'm not sure it'll be quite that good, but it should be better than it has been in the last year or so. Now, we're going to have to make some choices if we do get 4 pay-per-view shows in around 8 weeks. And I've already kind of come to terms with the ones I'm going to pay for and the ones I'm not. And I'm not going to sit on the fence. I'm happy to kind of go through them. And Dubois Joyce is one that a lot of people will be unsure about because it's not the same level as the others necessarily. It's not a world level fight. It's not featuring former world champions or world title challengers. But for me, it's probably the most intriguing fight out of the 4 headliners. You've got 2 unbeaten British guys fighting for, I think it's like 5 belts, but the most senior of which, if you like, is probably the European heavyweight title. Really intrigued by Dubois' youth and power and athleticism against Joyce's durability and work rate and toughness. I think that's a real hard fight to call, but also just a really exciting domestic clash. And they might not have outgoing personalities, but in the ring, they always entertain, both of them do. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I'll definitely be paying for it. So then you look at the other 3, and I think one of the least inspiring fights, funnily enough, is the one on the highest level, which is AJ defending his unified world heavyweight titles against Kubrat Pulev. Yes, he's got 2 of the major belts in the Glamour division. He's a regular pay-per-view or established pay-per-view attraction. Sells out stadiums if this ends up still happening at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which seems, doubtful considering the football season still needs to be restarted and will be prolonged as well. But either way, that's obviously going to be pay-per-view. There's no way around that, and I accept it. Is it a great fight? I mean, I think AJ's a massive favourite going in. I think Pulev has waited around for his chance and certainly deserves it. But this delay won't have helped his chances anymore. I think the older you get, the more active you need to be. And Joshua, how inspired is he going to be? I mean, obviously the wake-up call, if you like, he had against Andy Ruiz in their first fight should encourage him not to take anyone lightly. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think when it comes to the crunch, because of who it is and the fact it will probably have a really good undercard and it will be an event as well, I probably will pay for it. But I'm certainly more kind of on the fence about that one than I am Dubois Joyce, strangely enough. Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin. Again, two kind of world level, world top 10 heavyweights. Good undercard as well from what's been announced so far, including Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano. Just the depth of the card. The fact that Dillian Whyte is usually in entertaining fights, the last one against Marius Vac notwithstanding. And then we've got Povetkin, who again is an aggressive fighter. He gave AJ some problems. We saw him more recently against the likes of Hughie Fury, Michael Hunter. So that's an intriguing fight. And again, that's quite a hard one to call. That might be the closest to a 50-50 out of all four headliners. So I'm kind of on the fence about that one. I'm not sure. I think if they add a lot more to the undercard, and I like some of the undercard fights, I probably will pay for it. But at the moment, I'd say I'm on the fence. I've said on the fence so many times. At the moment, I'm 50-50, let's say that. So that's two I'll pay for, one I'm not sure about. And the last one for me, and I know this contradicts a lot of people on social media who find this the most enticing out of all four. And they're not sure, how Alexander Usyk's going to deal with a real decent heavyweight in Derek Chisora. Will Chisora make his size advantage count? Will Usyk just completely outbox him? For me, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm just going to be completely honest here. I can't really afford it to pay for 4 pay-per-views within 8 weeks. And if one has to bite the dust, for me, it's that one. I think we've got 2 kind of B-side pay-per-view fighters. Now, Usyk's an excellent fighter, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, don't get me wrong. But his only previous appearance on UK pay-per-view, he was, in essence, the B-side to Tony Bellew. And showed that he maybe shouldn't have been by outboxing Bellew down the stretch and getting rid of him in what was a really good performance. And former undisputed world champion, of course, down at cruiserweight. Heavyweight debut against the late substitute in Chaz Witherspoon didn't really inspire. And then you've got Chisora, who's always good value, but again, his pay-per-view headliner opportunities that he's had has been as the B-side against Dillian Whyte for the most part, or at least as the kind of 1B and 1A, because the pay-per-view shows were sold on their rivalry rather than one of the individual fighters. Him against Usyk, there's no inbuilt rivalry, there's no real grudge. There is intrigue for some, but for me, I think, I don't want to offend Derek Chisora, but I think Usyk's a big favourite, in my view. He's just a much better, more well-rounded boxer and closer to his physical prime than Chisora is. Chisora's on a great run of form and he'll always give people trouble, but I just think Usyk's a lot closer to being a world-level operator at heavyweight at this point in their respective careers. I don't think it's wrong to say that. I also think Chisora, when he goes up against these kind of skillful, mobile fighters, like Ajit Kabayel, the tactics he employed to beat Chisora, even Pulev, who's got sound fundamentals, he can fall short and he can be disheartened quite early on. Same as against Tyson Fury, certainly in their second fight. So I think, style-wise, Usyk's all wrong for Chisora. And I just think it's a predictable fight, and I'm happy to have egg on my face and be proved wrong, although obviously I'll never see it if I'm not going to pay for it anyway. But, people can tell me I'm wrong later on. But that's my view. That's the one I'm not going to pay for. 2 that I am, and 1 that I'm not sure about, and I want to see what gets added to the card. So obvious question for you guys out there in the comments section below. Let me know what you think. Which ones out of those 4, assuming they all do come within a really short time frame, which ones will you definitely pay for? Which ones will you definitely not? And which ones are you on the fence about? I'm going to say on the fence again, it should be my new catchphrase. Let me know what you think and reasons why you've made those choices as well. I'll be back on Monday for Reflections, 4:30 PM, and next week, Thursday, for Flexpectations, same time. But just, let me know in your comments below and I'll respond to some of them. Let's be fair, we've got nothing else to do at the moment, so let's interact and let's get a debate going. Really appreciate your time, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.